You know what's way more important than degrees and qualifications and work experience? Social skills. By far the most important thing if you want to get ahead in life is to be able to deal with other people well. You have to be able to kiss up to the people above you, and you have to be able to manipulate the people below you, that sort of thing. That's how you get places in life. You don't have to know me that well to assume that my social skills aren't the best. However, I feel like the particular way that my social skills are lacking is it's very particular. So, all I have to say is thank fuck. When I was a kid, I decided to get into doing magic tricks, because thanks to that, I have pretty decent. I don't really know what the word is for it. Immediate social skills, I guess, because when you're doing a magic trick, first things first, the first thing you learn doing street magic, performing to random people, is there will be times when you fuck up and you just have to sort of play it down. And no matter how high pressure it is, when you're doing a difficult move, you can't let it show that you're doing something difficult. You have to always maintain a sort of quiet confidence and charisma, which they call patter in the industry. That's the the industry term for the routine. The part of the magic is like partly what you're doing with your hands and the sleight of hand and stuff, but the big part of it is what you say, which is called the patter and rapport with your audience. And because I was doing random magic tricks to people on the train, on the bus, and on the street and stuff when I was like 12, 13, 14-ish, I pretty much got that bit down, which means if someone comes up to me and starts a conversation, I can be relatively funny and talk for like 2 minutes, and they won't immediately be scared of me. However, once it gets past those 2 minutes, I completely fucking fall apart. Uh, so that's a problem. But the main issue I have with social skills is kind of a dumb, edgy one, which is that I just kind of hate most people. Every time someone talks to me, at first I'm like, hey, there's a chance this person seems cool, and then they'll just say some dumb shit, and I'll be like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're an idiot. Uh, Plus my weird fear of going outside and talking to people. You know, I've made a lot of progress with my social anxiety over the years. Um, I'm pretty proud of that, to be honest. I can now just about manage to make important phone calls. Only sometimes. Hey, not always, but sometimes I can manage to make important phone calls, which I could never do in the past. Uh, but so, so that's kind of lessened now, but it's still it's less that I'm scared of. Once I'm actually in the situation, that's not when I'm anxious. I'm normally anxious about being put in that situation. Like, if I happen to have left my house and be in a social situation, oh fuck, there's something in my eye. Fuck, that's really annoying. Okay, it's gone. Um, like at uni or something, someone talks to me. Uh, I'm generally fine, like passable for a little bit, right? But the bit where I have to convince myself to leave my house, that that bit is just not good. I really fucking hate going outside. It's terrifying. There's terrible things out there. It's full of people who are annoying and loud and ugly and disgusting, and just not good. Don't like them. I can't force myself to go out there and talk to them. They suck. But I guess that's my problem, is that I just kind of hate most people, and I lose all motivation to speak to them. But then if I don't speak to them, it often leads to awkward situations. The other thing is my weird, because I only really interact with people on the internet where edgy humor is very normalized. So sometimes I forget that most people, you're not supposed to make really edgy jokes when you're not, when you only just met someone, because like on the internet you could spend 5 minutes talking to someone and immediately make a Hitler joke and it'll be completely fine. So I, this actually happened to me in uni. Without even thinking about it, I made a fucking Holocaust joke in class and no one laughed. And it was the worst thing I've ever experienced. It was fucking awful. Oh god, that's terrible. I don't want to think about that. Anyway, so that's a problem. Inappropriate jokes. Uh, I don't know. Also, since women don't really talk to me, when they do decide to talk to me, I can never. I I get nervous because like, how do I explain it? It's like I don't. I feel like my natural conversation with women comes across as flirty, even though I don't intend it to be. I don't really. I don't. I mean, I don't know why that is or what caused it, but that's just kind of how it is. I mean, that's how I see it. It might be completely untrue from other people's perspectives, but that's how I perceive it. So I kind of I think I might just end up coming off kind of cold because I'm trying to avoid seeming like I'm trying to flirt with them, and then that just fucks everything up because then no one ever wants to talk to me, which is fine. I'm quite happy with no one wanting to talk to me, which that's kind of the ultimate goal of every conversation is to uh, converse with someone just to be understandable just enough to where they'll think, oh, he's cool, but to be just edgy or annoying or uh, obtuse enough to where they don't particularly feel any desire to come back and have another conversation with me if they don't have to. That's basically what I want. I want it to be where, okay, we've been split into groups, which happens surprisingly often, you know. I thought being split into groups would be like a school thing that wouldn't happen in uni, but it happens, which is strange. But there you go. Like I don't want it to be where people actively avoid grouping up with me. Uh like if someone gets put in a group with me, like they'll probably be like, okay, we can work together. But I don't want them to have to have any desire to actually talk to me if they don't have to, which is nice. I think I've achieved this pretty well so far. My mom's pretty pissed off with me though. She uh I don't you know, she's got like uh I think she kind of wants me to be social because of how it rubs off on her. Like if if I am seen as a weirdo, then it implies that she's raised me wrong or something, which is obviously not true, but I think that's how she sees it. So she's constantly having a go at me and telling me I need to make friends and get a girlfriend and stuff. I don't really have any desire to do either of those things. Uh, Communication, man, I can't do it. This was kind of the point of this YouTube channel. But then after making this YouTube channel, I realized that I have no desire to actually talk to anyone in real life about this stuff who I'm already friends with. Because no one's going to have good opinions about this shit. No one's going to have interest. Even people that say dumb shit on the internet is going to be far more entertaining than listening to some normie talk about literally anything. It's stupid. I fucking hate them all. I don't know what to say, man. Like I language. I really I'm not very good with it. That's another reason I kind of don't enjoy talking to people is I feel like I keep saying stuff and it sounds like some one thing in my like I want to say something, but it just doesn't fit into language well enough for me to say it, or I don't phrase it right, which is basically fine on the internet. Say you say something and it gets understood, and then you realize, I don't know, you say something and then you realize you didn't phrase it correctly, and then you can just go back and you can just say, I didn't phrase that correctly, let me rephrase that. You can do that in real life, but it's a little weirder. Like, you're kind of expected to just get it down first time. There's no retakes. Like, people are much more forgiving on the internet of social weirdness, because the internet was kind of built by social outcasts, and the places I hang out with are kind of populated by them. But in real life, you get one first impression and that's it. You can't go back and redo it, which is paired with the fact that I'm constantly dissociated, and it ends up with a really weird atmosphere where every conversation seems like it's simultaneously not real. It feels like I'm not actually talking to someone, but then also I have to remind myself that this is the only time I'm ever going to get to play this bit, as it were. The only time I'm ever going to get to experience this thing. The only chance I get to have this specific moment. I can't go back in time and redo it if I fuck up. And that's like a lot of pressure. But it's not like that makes me particularly nervous. But I don't know, I feel like I just end up saying dumb shit or coming across as really patronizing a lot of the time. This is probably the biggest thing I need to work on is, uh, I've noticed that it's, I think I kind of should just start assuming that people know everything there is to know about whatever subject we're talking about, because I never know how much to assume that people know about certain things, uh, or how much to assume about people's perspectives on certain things. I think a lot of people just don't think about stuff that much. Like, this girl was talking about astrology, and I was like, it's bullshit, right? Or something along those lines. And she was like, I don't know. I think the universe has some sort of influence on our lives, and there's some force out there that we can't predict, and it definitely, I can tell that it works, or something like that. I don't remember the exact conversation. And then I proceeded to go on a spiel about, oh fuck, I was on drugs at this time. That's probably part of it. But I proceeded to go on a spiel about this experiment where they gave a basically talked, like, explained the entire concept of cold reading to her, and I think I went on for a bit too long because I started realizing that I was kind of rambling halfway through, but just kept going because I couldn't just stop there. I hadn't finished explaining it, and at the end of me going on, she was just like, "Well, I kind of know it's not real, but at the same time, I kind of choose to believe it." And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? How can you just not think about stuff like that? I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand people. They're just fucking incomprehensible. The lack of self awareness and the cognitive dissonance within most people. I'm not excluding myself from this, by the way. I myself included. Difference being, I am myself, so I can kind of understand it without having to try, because I am me. But the amount of ridiculous cognitive dissonance within most people is just insane. I don't understand how people can live that way. Yeah, I just get caught with a intense hatred for people every time I try and talk to them, which has led to me not wanting to talk to anyone. The other thing is anime, right? Because I could easily talk to someone about anime for like a decade, just non-stop. But how am I supposed to find the people who like anime? So I've resorted to trying to really subtly drop anime references into conversations. I mean, I don't have many conversations, so already this is just a bad start. But I try and very subtly reference the fact that I like anime sometimes, and so far no success, which is very interesting because at my last school there was a lot of anime fans. So I guess maybe that school was just a weird exception, or maybe I don't know. I don't really know what. Maybe people grew out of it or something. But it's only like a 1 year difference between school that like high school and uni. So don't know what that is. Um, yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, someone referenced Dragon Ball Z the other day, but this Dragon Ball Z, um, it's a. I think maybe my anime references are too subtle. I don't know. How am I supposed to know what people know? How am I supposed to know what people are into? Because like everyone has their little autistic thing, right? I'm assuming everyone does. Maybe they don't. Maybe this is just an internet thing. But most people seem to have this like have r- really interesting little obsessions. Like I I was talking to a guy on Discord the other day, who I used to know from like secondary school. But then we lost contact, and we've recently recontacted each other and started playing CS:GO together. And he's really into container ships, like in an aesthetic way. And I think that's the coolest fucking shit ever. He talks about it like it's the coolest thing, like it's the coolest thing. Like, look at those fucking derricks, they're so cool. And I'm like, mate, I've never even thought about container ships. This is the most interesting thing ever. I've never even considered the fact that container ships could be aesthetically pleasing. But now that you mention it, you're completely right. Those are sick. You know? Like, everyone has their little thing. I feel like everyone should have their little thing if they don't. I mean, I've got a lot of little things, and I go through them and change them pretty regularly. And moss, for example, is a little thing. I don't know, all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, I met one guy who was growing a pineapple plant at his house, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But I struggled to keep that conversation going for more than 2 minutes, like usual. So that didn't go anywhere. And I I guess on the internet, if you're talking to someone, if you're in a place where you're communicating, there's normally like a structure set up for you to communicate about something. Like you're either playing a game with someone, or on a forum, or on a message board, image board, Discord, something like that. So you instantly know about something you have in common. Even if both of you are completely autistic, you can be like you don't need to really try to initiate the conversation, because um you're it's very easy to segue into things. You know, if you make a friend on, like, I have some friends that I just met on Counter-Strike, and that's all we never talk except for just occasionally queuing up together for Counter-Strike, right? Which I think is a pretty normal thing that happens in a lot of games. And that's really easy because you just talk to people in the game and make friendly conversation. And if you get on well, you just send a friend request, and then you continue to play games, and there's no other like expectations outside of that. But how am I supposed to do that sort of thing in real life? It doesn't work. You can't just, there is no framework within which to work. If you're on an image board talking to someone, well, there is the subject of that thread that brings you together. There is the theme of that board, you know, the topic. There's a unifying subject. But real life conversations don't really have that sort of thing. I mean, they can, but the segue isn't as easy. You can like you could talk to someone when you have to work with them about setting up microphones, like I do, or something along those lines, like, hey, could you pass me this? That's fine. But then when you leave the classroom, what do you do then? I feel like a lot of people just think I'm really weird and pretentious. Oh fuck. I dropped it. I dropped my vape. Turn the light back off. It's much better. Um I don't know. It's fucked. Communication is stupid. I'm mentioning all of this because I've been obsessively, even more obsessively than before, reading Komi-san Can't Communicate to the point where it's like one of my favorite manga now. It's fucking sick. Would highly recommend it. And there's a lot of characters that can't communicate very well, and all in their different ways. Like there's this one character who, like Komi, has a basically social anxiety, and she feels really embarrassed and nervous talking to people. But then there's other characters who have problems communicating for different reasons, like her brother who doesn't communicate because he doesn't think he ever needs to. He is very obsessed with being independent and doing everything himself, which has its own problems, and they explore that. And then there's this other girl who tries not to get close to people because her family is always moving, and she doesn't want to have to be sad when she loses her friends. That sort of thing. I just finished reading that arc. It was really good. Also, I feel like I should mention how much of a good character Najimi-san is. Firstly, she's like non-binary, which is interesting because normally in anime or manga, if there's a quote unquote trap, they'll just refer to it as a guy the entire time or as a girl the entire time. But with this, they use like gender neutral terms, and or they just switch between. Sometimes they'll say he, sometimes they'll say she. Uh, it's interesting. But that's a very interesting character. It's like some sort of Lovecraftian being, incredibly esoteric powers emanating from them, because her shtick is that she is literally everyone's childhood friend. Her name is Najimi-san, as in Osanajimi. Osanajimi? I don't remember what the fucking word is in Japanese. Childhood friend in Japanese. And she is literally like, I don't know if you've ever seen that show Uncle Grandpa, about this guy who's everyone's uncle and grandpa. But she's like that, but she's everyone's childhood friend. She's literally friends with everyone and knows everyone. Uh, like it's insane. She's childhood friends with every single person in the world. It's fucking sick. I love it. What an amazing idea for a character. I want to do a video comparing Komi-san and this other manga which had a similar premise. In fact, like, because both the premise of Komi-san is that she wants to make 100 friends, and there's another manga with the same premise. I forgot what it's called. Hitori Buchi no something. It's by the same guy who wrote Mitsubishi Colors, which is how I found out about it. And I think it's getting an anime adaptation. I feel like the anime adaptation should have come out by now. I don't know. I need to check up on that. But if you like the art style of writing style of Mitsubishi Colors, I would recommend it. There's some very cute bits in it. It's very good. But it's I want to talk about the differences between that and Komi-san, but I need to reread that because I read it a while ago and I don't remember it super well. But yeah, communication. Every single one of my videos ends with me going, but yeah, realizing I don't have anything to talk about and then struggling to end the video, so I'm just going to end it right now.